Welcome to the second video. This video I want to use to show you how to construct a file that we can then process, and the processing it in Excel will be the final video that I'll produce. So what I'm going to show you here is in these four folders I have pretty much all the old fog data I've collected. There may be more floating around somewhere, but I'm going to pick one of them, and I'm going to pick the UCSC Arboretum. And I'm picking that because a couple of you are going to actually be visiting it on this Monday, and I thought that might be useful for you to see the old data. I have data going back here, you can see to 2015. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that file, and I'm actually going to download it. So I'm going to double click it. There we go. And I'll download it. I just think it's easier to work in Excel for me than Google Sheets. You're welcome to work on it in Google Sheets, but if you want to keep it local to your computer, you can bring it to Excel. So I'll open it up in Excel. Other stuff open in here in Excel, which you can ignore for the moment. Okay, I will enable editing. And these files aren't always in the same format. Matter of fact, the top few rows are pretty much, I don't really need them. I'm just going to get rid of them right now. But I want to explain to you what they are. I'm going to delete these cells, shift everything up. This first one is the date and time. The second one is the number of tips, for this site anyway, it's the number of tips divided by 100. So if you saw 0.01 here, and this data doesn't have many, there's a lot of zeros you can see. A 0.01 represents one tip during that 15-minute period. 0.05 represents 5 tips. What I need to do is I need to convert those numbers of tips to their corresponding volume in liters. And this, what's a little unfortunate is the format isn't always the same. This is 0.01 represents a tip. Other files will represent a 1, 2, or 3 as a tip. So you may have to ask me, is this a tip or is this a volume? What is it? I'm going to try to label that. So what I'm going to do here, just so you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to label what each column is. This is date and time. And this is, I'll put it number of tips divided by 100. There's a reason why it's not an integer and it's a fraction, 0.01, 0.02. Some of them are integers. Things have changed over time, but just accept that for now. And I'm going to convert it to a volume in liters of water that's actually accumulated. How I'm going to do that is I need to know the conversion for it. So for that, you have to open the, see if I can get to it. I'm going to go into my Google Drive. It's actually the Google spreadsheet, but I'll access it through Google Drive. The one that consists of all the calibrations for the fog collectors is where you want to go to get the proper number. Let's see if I can find that here. It's called Tipping Bucket Assignments, and you should all have access to it. Here it is, Tipping Bucket Assignments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find Arboretum. I'll do a search for it so I can tell what calibration it has. So I'm going to have it search for Arboretum. And Arboretum tells me it's working. Looking for it. Should have found it by now. It's not that hard. Let's see here. Must be looking in the wrong place. Give me a second here. It's telling me no results, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to where I think I know it is. It should work to do a search for it. I'll try it again. I don't like this. what I'll find is that it's 120 because I just looked for it a few minutes ago. Here it is, UCSC Arboretum. It should have found that. I don't know why it didn't, but I used bucket number 33. Bucket number 33 at a calibration of 120 tips per liter. So that's the number I'm going to put in when I actually calculate the volume. So I'm going to go back over here and say, okay, whatever number is in here, so I'll just click that, that's B2, divide that by 120. And actually I have to multiply it by 100, I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it by 1.2, 120 tips per liter, but because it's already in hundredths, I need to divide it by 1.2 rather than 120. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag it down, and you'll see all the way down here, you'll see some numbers that are not 100, but not zero, but not many, if any. And I could actually search for them. I'll just show you. I think there's some that are non-zero. I'll do a sort largest to smallest, expand the selection, yes. And you can see indeed there are some periods where there was some significant water. And this was fog for sure in June, but not too many. A lot of them are zeros. Out of all these thousands of data points, let's see how many. I have several hundred that are not zeros, but then all the rest are zeros, and there's thousands. So several hundred are not zeros, most of them are zeros. Then I will undo it. So you know that there are some non-zeros in here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this as a file whose file name begins, and I'm going to save it in that all data. I'm going to create my own folder in my own computer for that, but I'll have you upload it to that all data folder later. So I'm just going to save it wherever you want to save it on your own computer. Feel free to do that. I have a place on my computer where I will already save that. And I have an all data on my computer. I'm going to save it. I'm going to call this one Arboretum, and this is the starting date, but the ending date is going to be something different. So for now, I'm just going to put the starting date here. I'll rename it with the ending date later, but I'm going to save it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this for each of the files that contain Arboretum data for every year. So I'll go back into the Google Drive, which is, if I can find it, here it is. I will go to the next file. The first one was right here. I'll go to the next one, which is here. It goes from August 4th to August 26th, so it's a little less than a month for that one. The first one was about 3 months worth of data. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to download it to Excel. And in Excel, I'll enable editing. And the calibrations did not change. I use the same bucket. You can check the tipping bucket assignments Google sheet if you want. Arboretum's kind of easy. It was 120 for first couple of years, then it went to 124 later. I happened to look at this earlier. But I like to reference it and see, was there a change in the bucket, from year to year. Usually that's when that's going to happen. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to call this, this one has some labels here. I'll call this number of tips divided by 100. It's also in decimals. And then I'll call this liters here. I'll get rid of these first two. We know it's Arboretum because that's the name of the file name. I'll delete these cells, shift cells up. There we go. I'll make this wrap around so you can read it better. Wrap text. All right, and then I like centering things. It makes it look a little bit easier to see. Then I'll go here and say, okay, this is equal to this divided by 120. I'm sorry, divided by 1.2. I'll drag it all the way down to the bottom. That should be done. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to copy and paste the whole data set that I just created here, which is over 2,000 points long. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it onto the end of the last one. So what I'm going to be doing here is creating one Uber file for each of the fog collectors that I'm looking at. And you can see there's a gap here. That's okay. We'll deal with that. There's a couple-day gap, probably full of zeros, but there is a gap there. So later on, you'll see there, if you actually look at the data minute by minute, you'll see, or 15-minute interval by 15-minute interval, you'll see there's a gap. So be it. That happens. Center everything. And I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to go on to the next one. And I'm going to keep doing this for as many Arboretum files for all the years that I can get. So once I finish with 2015, I can go in and do it. And there's one more for 2015. I could do it again, but hopefully you're getting the idea. I'll finish this one for 2015. Then I can go back here and I can do the same thing for 2016 for the Arboretum. This is 2016 for the Arboretum right here, or 2016, and where's Arboretum? There it is. Thank goodness. And I have a couple files for Arboretum for 2000. Oh, this is 2017. But hopefully you get the idea. I think the other one maybe is 2016. Let me check that. Oh, sorry, this is 2016 here. I was jumping the gun. There's UCSC Arboretum up here. I only have one file for this year, but I'll take whatever I got for 2016. I'll open it. I'll download it to an Excel spreadsheet. And then I'll be able to append it to the end of the last one once I fill in the other 2015 data. And I will do this for all of the sites that I can, hopefully in the next few days. I'll work on Arboretum right now. Pick a site you're interested in. Go ahead and do it, and create an Uber file for that site. And in the next video, I'll show you how to create some graphs for that Uber file that you're creating. Okay, that's enough for this video.